because that's causing a lot of confusion in the community. The other question I have is a bit more general, but same lines. There are 8,000 or 9,000 people currently in the queue. There's 30. You mentioned 37,000 that are in the system. We expect those numbers will probably come in to PR applications at some point. The humanitarian compassionate category only allows for 13,000 people this year and then 8,000. How's the department going to deal with the influx of people processing in that category?
Ms. Snow?
So I believe that there was a similar question raised in the committee meeting around Gaza and the Sudan, and the department has made a commitment to come back on this matter. So we will echo that sentiment here, that the department will come back with more clarity on how the numbers and the agency category will be parceled out.
Thank you. And I guess I don't have a lot of time left, but I just wanted to, again, reiterate, I saw some data that was about 800 respondents, and the average application date of that group was back to May of last year. And so that would indicate that the processing times are quite a bit higher than the 6 months or the 8 months as you described today. So I think there is some disconnect in what people are experiencing or what they believe they're experiencing and what you're telling us. So just wanted to make you aware of that.
Thank you very much. Now we will go to my dear friend from Devonport, Madam Jirovich. Please go ahead, 5 minutes.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I just want to say thanks to all the witnesses today. Thanks for being here. Thanks for this great conversation. Thanks to everyone for letting me come be part of this conversation. There's two parts to the study. The first part is the access to the Mandatory Provident Fund. My understanding is that there is an agreement, the Agreement on Social Security between the Government of Canada and the Government of the People's Republic of Canada, which provides for coordination of pension benefits between the Chinese and Canadian companies and employees, but it doesn't apply to the Mandatory Provident Fund for Hong Kongers. Maybe my question is to you, Mr. Linkris. Is there any other agreement that could govern or that could provide some guidance on how to deal with this outstanding issue?
Mr. Linkris.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not aware of any such agreement, but I would have to consult internally with perhaps some of our tax policy experts who deal with these international tax types of treaties. And we'd have to get back to you.
And are you...
One person at a time, please. Let him finish.
I got so excited,
no, I know.
Mr. Chair. So are you aware of the agreement of the Social Security? Like, are you aware of that agreement that I just read out, Agreement of Social Security between Government of Canada and the People's Republic of China?
Mr. Linkris.
I am not personally aware of that agreement, but I'm sure there's somebody in another part of the Department of Finance who would have information about that.
Only reason I was asking was just because I wonder if there's an arbitration element of that agreement that could actually apply. But if you're not aware of it, then that would be moot. Okay, so then I'm going to go on to my next set of questions, which is really around the second part of this study, which is access of the Hong Kongers in Canada to viable pathways to Canadian permanent residence. Maybe my question is to Ms. Snow. What are all the current viable pathways to Canadian permanent residence for Hong Kongers in Canada?
Mr. McNamee.
Oh, sorry. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. So Hong Kongers have access to all the pathways that we have currently in the department. Those include family reunification pathways. So this for people who are trying to bring their families over. The economic pathways, which include the express entry system and all the skill migration pathways. We also have business program pathways, as well as pathways managed through the provincial territorial governments, in addition to the special pathway that we created in 2021, which will be in effect for another year until 2025. That enables people who have previously worked or studied in Canada to continue to apply for permanent residence and get access through that mechanism. So there are many, many pathways that are available to Hong Kong nationals.
Honourable Member.
Is the fact that we have, it seems like we have some long processing times within sort of IRCC And I'm wondering whether that is impacting some of the applications from, I think you mentioned, Ms. Snow, that on average it's 8 months for a Hong Kong resident in Canada to apply from a work permit to permanent residence. Is that true?
Madam Snow.
For the streams, for the public policies that we've introduced for Hong Kong,
Yeah.
the data is showing under 8 months right now.
Okay, which is excellent. I understand. And then my last questions are to Ms. Chen. Ms. Chen, is there a concern by the People's Republic of China around Hong Kongers trying to immigrate to Canada? Are there sort of political concerns? Are there any considerations that the People's Republic has raised through global affairs around Hong Kongers coming to Canada?
Ms. Chen.
The PRC government is very much well aware of Canada's overall concerns around political developments in Hong Kong, but on this issue specifically, they have not raised it with us.
Remember.
I'm trying to think if there's any other. I think that's all questions for me.
30 seconds left.
Oh,
Might as well utilize, otherwise I'll go to the next one.
yes, thank you. Go to the
Thank
next one.
you
Thanks so
very much. Now we will go to my dear friend, Mr. Bruno Desepp, for 2.5 minutes. Go ahead, please.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to circle back to the end of my last question, Ms. Chen. Let me understand here. You're saying that you expressed your concerns to the Hong Kong authorities about the national security law. Was that you were saying earlier? Okay. The International Human Rights Subcommittee, which is a subcommittee of the Foreign Affairs Committee of the House of Commons, put out a press release calling for the release of Jimmy Lai. And up till now, you have been unable to say whether Global Affairs agrees with the committee's conclusions.
Madam Chen.
Thank you. Again, the Canada's position on Jimmy Lai is very well known to the Hong Kong authorities and so forth. We're also well aware of there was a unanimous consent motion within Parliament in December about the case of Jimmy Lai. It is also my understanding that our minister Minister Joly also voted in favor of that motion, given it was unanimous.
Mr. Bruno Desepp.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
So Canada has called for the release of Jimmy Lai.
Oui ou non?
Yes or no?
Madam Chen.
Again, the PRC government and the Hong Kong authorities are aware of the unanimous consent motion that was approved in Parliament, which also included, of course, votes by our Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Honourable member.
C'est vraiment pas compliqué. Je veux juste vous en...
It's not that complicated. I just want you to say whether Canada is calling for the release of Jimmy Lai. Yes or no? That's the only question I'm asking.
Madam Chen.
So I guess to be absolutely 100% clear, we have not specifically requested the release of Jimmy Lai. However, we have expressed serious concerns around the trial of Jimmy Lai. We continue to work with the UK government and others to ensure that we are maintaining a consistent advocacy approach around Mr. Lai, again, because it is considered an important consular case for the UK government. We want to approach advocacy around his case with a great deal of respect and responsibility. But I can tell you we have been in touch with his legal counsel and his family over time. So again, they are very much aware of the work of the Government of Canada on his case.
Thank you.
Donc, on dit que la loi viole les droits.
So we agree that the national security law violates international human rights. We agree that there's concerns about the law. We agree that the trial is a sham trial. And yet Canada is not calling for the release of Jimmy Lai.
Your time is up. Now we'll go to Madam Kwan. Madam Kwan, please go ahead for 2.5 minutes.
Well, thank you for that. I may add that we should actually be calling for the release of all political prisoners in Hong Kong in relation to the national security law and the most recent Article 23. I hope that the officials will bring that back to the minister as well. I want to follow up with IRCC officials, Ms. Snow, on your comment that the average processing time is now 8 months. There are about 10,000 people waiting for PR application to be processed from Hong Kong at the moment. That's as of March 2024. Can she confirm then that those individuals will get their PR applications processed in 8 months?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There, as raised by another member, there is a limit to the levels for this year of 13,500, with another 8,000 booked next year. We will process according to the levels plan. So at the moment, the processing is under 8 months. We don't anticipate the processing will rise to 21 months, but we will work within the levels that have been approved by Parliament and that our minister is accountable for.
How many are being processed right now per month for Hong Kongers?
No.
So I will have to, the department will have to revert back if you wish to have monthly statistics. What I have is year to date.
Yes, I would like to get monthly statistics. And also on the question around statistics, I asked for the Gaza, at the Gaza meeting, the breakdown of the immigration levels numbers related to the variety of different special immigration measures. That was on May the 27th. So by the end of this week, it'll be 2 weeks. Can we actually get that information, because it pertains to this study as well, by next Monday? Can I get a confirmation for that?
I will take that back to the department to raise your concern that the committee has been waiting for 2 weeks.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would actually raise this as a motion and then have the committee call on the officials to provide that documents. I like to get this before we actually adjourn in this sitting of the House and still have enough time to go back to it if necessary. Mr. Chair, can you confirm if I need a motion to request that undertaking, or can it just be a direction be given?
You can give the direction, and I will ask the questions to the officials if they can. Otherwise, we can always pass this motion. So I will go to Mr. McNamee and Madam Snow or Madam Maskell if they want to respond. I have stopped the watch because your time is already almost up, and let me figure it out.
We'll take this back and commit to provide that information to you. We are aware that the request is in the system. It's being worked on, but I can't give you at this time an exact timeline on when it will be done. But it is always requests from the committee are given priority.
Your time is up. You are satisfied with that, or you want to address this?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate that. However, I think that we, especially in light of the fact that we know people's pension funds are being withheld until the application can be processed. We just heard from Ms. Snow that the immigration levels plan is going to impact processing in terms of people getting their PR. And so I think this is all related, and the committee members need to have that information. So I would like to ask support of the committee members to ensure that we get that information back from officials by next Monday.
The unanimous consent from the committee?
Yes.
Is it yes? Mr. Chang? You want to speak to that?
I will defer to our department official if that's appropriate time or if they need more time.
Okay. There's a question now. I will give Mr. McNamee the floor. Mr. McNamee, you want to respond to Mr. Chang's question?
Yes, I would like to be able to come back to the committee with an exact date, just that it is Wednesday and Monday is coming up very quickly to be able to produce that information.
So basically, Mr. McNamee, you are saying that you would not be able to produce by Monday. Is that correct? Or you
I
are
would
not
like more
making
time if possible, yes.
Okay. Mr.
Sorry, on a point of order, Mr.
Sure.
Chair.
No, Madam Kwan, you go ahead. I mean, you know that your time is up, but I still entertained. So there's no matter. I mean, I have Mr. McLean on the speaking list, and I will put you on the speaking list as well. No worries. Mr. McLean, you want to say?
Thank you. Sorry, we're talking about some readily available data here, and you're saying we can't get it in a day or two?
Mr. McNamee.
Release has to be reviewed to ensure that it is publicly releasable. Sometimes information includes small cell data, which identifies individuals, and we want to avoid that wherever possible, so it takes a little bit of time.
Well, of course. We're not looking for personal identification. We're looking for numbers. And I'm not sure what's going to... You should have a database this, and it should be readily available and be able to handle it in a few hours, quite frankly. And so I'm challenged by why this can't be produced very, very quickly here.
Not all experts. I will leave it to the officials to respond. Madam Kwan, please go ahead.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I'm just trying to get clarity here with respect to that. Just to be clear, that request for that data was made on May the 27th. So by next Monday, it would have been 2 weeks, not just a couple of days for this data to be made available for this committee. It's the same data that's being asked for to be sent to our committee. So it's been 2 weeks. And time is of the essence here. So am I hearing then on the unanimous consent motion that you asked committee members on, am I hearing then that Mr. Chan is voting no? Or
no,
is there unanimous consent?
No. Nobody's voting no yet. It's only the debate right now. Madam Kwan, the members have questions to the officials, and that is fully appropriate. As I said, that I'm giving this additional time to discuss, and there's no vote, and there's no person has said that they don't support it. They were just asking the question to make sure that the officials have the appropriate time. So every member has the right, as I said. So I have not called the vote yet. And Madam Jurovich.
Since we're still in debate.
Sorry, Madam Kwan, yes.
Sorry, Mr. Chair. So can I just finish then? I just wanted that clarity in terms of where we're at with respect to that vote. So thank you for clarifying. I very much appreciate that. Then I just want to have a quick response to the officials with respect to potential data that might compromise individual privacy in terms of names and so on and so forth. I do want to reiterate what the undertaking is about the larger data number. It's not about the individuals or their names or their specific case in terms of processing. It is about for the government to advise this committee based on the immigration levels plan of this year, which is under the H&C category, 18,500. Next year is 8,000, and the following year is also 8,000. How they're going to target the various different needs of special immigration measures and other H&C needs in the global community that IRCC are contemplating and trying to address, and as well as the protected persons category. So these are broad numbers, and particularly what those targets are for each of those different countries or regions, and so that we may know how these numbers will measure up in terms of processing.
Please go ahead.
I just want to be clear, there's no personal information here.
No, I was just, in the debate, Mr. Chair, I was just going to ask if officials felt, how much time the officials felt they needed, whether they felt they needed 1 extra week, a couple of extra days. I just wanted to see where you were at.
Mr. McNamee.
We're aware of the request, and I believe it's being acted on as expeditiously as possible. I just can't tell you exactly that it will be ready on Monday, but I will tell you that we're working on it, and it will be ready as soon as possible.
Would it be Wednesday, you think? that will be appropriate, Mr. McNamee, if I see the consensus in the committee? You want Monday? I mean, Mr. McNamee, what do you feel? Whatever you feel confident, just give the answer. If I need to go to the vote, then I will. If I see the consensus in the committee, then that will work.
I think in a week's time it would be possible to produce it or to finalize whatever product we are in the process of producing, because the request has been in place now for a while, as Chan has indicated.
Okay, Madam Kwan and other members, I think is it appropriate? Yeah, I see the heads nodding. So we gave the IRCC to produce the requested information by next Wednesday. Thank you very much, Madam Kwan. Your time is way up, and so we will go to.
It's an approved motion. It's approved.
It's approved. It's approved. Agreed. Agreed. Unanimously agreed. Right? Okay. Thank you. And now I'm going to the critic, the only one and only one, Mr. Mitch. 5 minutes, please go ahead.
Thanks, Chair. Mr. McNamee, at the beginning, there was when we were debating this PR card, there is a person who's now corresponded with the committee saying that she's affected by it and gave the example. So that's the example I'm using. At the previous committee on the Canadian PR card, it appears GBN. That's how the Hong Kong government, that's how the Beijing government is identifying people who came to Canada on a BNO passport. We're told now that these are ICAO rules. Are these standards or recommended practices?
Mr. McNamee.
I'll ask Ms. Maskell to take it.
Maskell, please go ahead.
Thank you for the question. The ICAO does have a standard for machine-readable travel documents, and contained within there, the country code for the British national overseas is GBN.
Honourable member, is it a standard or a practice?
It's a standard.
It's a standard. So there are differences between one is like a recommended thing to do, the other one is like an obligation to do it because we're a member of the ICAO. So I'd like to know, in all the discussion here, since you are aware of this issue for certain Hong Kongers who've entered Canada, who've become permanent residents, and there will be more of them as thousands more continue to apply for PR, and eventually, after all the delays, will get it, have you communicated with the ICAO?
Ms. Maskell.
Thank you for the question. I'm not aware if we've communicated with the ICAO on this particular issue.
Mr. Mitch.
Your branch has not of the department, or you're just not unaware of anyone in government has communicated to ICAO that the Hong Kong administration is using Canadian PR cards to identify people they want to oppress transnationally because they're Hong Kongers who are fleeing that country and obtaining permanent residency in Canada?
Ms. Maskell.
I'm not aware if anyone in the government of Canada has raised that issue with ICAO.
Okay. The ICAO is based in Montreal, so why not?
Madam Maskell.
Thank you for the question. It's not I'm not aware of who would be leading that, so at this time I can't comment on why or why not it hasn't been raised.
So, Chair, maybe I'll ask GAC, because GAC would be responsible for dealing with these international organizations. The ICAO is based in Montreal. I'm being told that nobody's communicated to the fact that these ICAO standards are now being used to target Canadian permanent residents who are from Hong Kong who entered Canada on a BNO passport, of which we have, this committee has an example now. Are you aware of this? Is GAC aware of this? And has GAC communicated to the ICAO?
Madam Chan.
This, for me, is I'm just learning now that this is an issue being looked at by ICAO. We are aware of their headquarters being in Montreal. The lead for ICAO is actually Transport Canada, but we would be pleased to work with IRCC and Transport Canada officials to ensure that some important messages are delivered, and we can look into this issue with ICAO officials.
So to go back to Mr. McNamee, what is the downside? Like, what's the effect? Will ICAO or ICAO What will they do if the government of Canada were to change the 4 different codes, but specifically GBN, to mark, say, HKG or CHN on the permanent resident cards that are being issued by the government of Canada? Like, does somebody monitor this, or can it just be a practice of the government to protect these Hong Kongers who fled, who get PR, to simply issue them one that doesn't show the fact and doesn't make it easy for the MPFA in Hong Kong to target them?
Mr. McNamee. Madam Maskell.
I'd have to take that. Thank you for the question. I'd have to bring that back and discuss with Transport Canada and other stakeholders across government.
Honourable member, go ahead, please.
How is Transport Canada involved in IRCC-issued PR cards?
Ms. Maskell.
As Ms. Chen indicated, Transport Canada is the lead for ICAO in terms of that communication.
Right.
So,
oh,
yeah.
Chair, I understand that part. I'm saying an IRCC practice. Why, as a practice, don't you just change it so you don't show GBN, you show HKG or CHN to protect these Hong Kongers who've come to Canada, been issued a PR card, so we've done a security record check, background checks on them, and you're showing GBN, that's how they're being targeted. That's how the Hong Kong administration, the communists, know that these are Hong Kongers who fled and permanently do not want to go back. So I'm just saying, as a practice, what would happen?
Madam Maskell.
So thank you for the question. IRCC does issue the PR cards are designed and issued to be consistent with the travel document that's provided by the applicant. So we haven't explored further than that. They continue to be issued to be consistent with the travel document because they're used together.
Thank you. Time is up. It's 5:21. So we will go to now, dear friend, Mr. Al-Khoury.
Merci.
You have 5 minutes.
Merci, Monsieur le Président, et merci à nos...
Thank you, Chair. Thank you to our guests who have come to share such important information with our committee. My first question is for Ms. Chen. Ms. Chen, my colleague across the way asked you whether Canada has specifically called for the release of Mr. Jimmy Lai. Your response was a little bit vague. Can you say why exactly Canada has not called for the release of Mr. Jimmy Lai?
Madam Chen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm actually just reminded about the text of our statement at the Universal Periodic Review when I did say earlier that we called for the repeal of the national security law, but we also asked to discontinue all cases against individuals charged for exercising their human rights and freedoms. So we made a statement referencing all cases being tried under the national security law.
Je m'excuse, Madame Chen, avec tout le respect.
Apologies, Ms. Chen. With all due respect, I didn't ask for that. What I asked was for you to explain the arguments and the reasons why Canada did not call for the release of Jimmy Lai, and you did not give specific reasons or specific arguments.
Chen.
I think it's, Mr. Chair, it's been very clear to Mr. Lai's family, legal counsel, and his other supporters about Canada's position on his case and, of course, our position on the national security law. This, again, we have consistently spoken out about Jimmy Lai's case, and we will continue to do so.
Madame Chen, notre relation...
Ms. Chen, our relationship with China could prevent us from giving proper support to the people in Hong Kong who are undergoing a difficult situation. Is that not so?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question? Yes.
The relation between Canada and China may play a role in order not to be more helpful for the people of Hong Kong and asking for the freedom of Mr. Jimmy Lai.
Madam Chen.
If I understand correctly, Mr. Chair, the question is about whether or not our relations with the PRC are impacting our ability to conduct advocacy on Mr. Lai's case. Is that correct?
Yes and no. I'm asking you those questions as a chair for human rights. And from until this moment, I did not find a convincing reasons why we do not ask for the freedom of Mr. Jimili.
Madam Chair.
No, thank you for raising that. I guess for us, we have been focused on human rights and human rights in Hong Kong for many years. Our position has been very consistent over many years. We've spoken out multiple times about Jimmy Lai. We have called for the release of all individuals charged under the NSL. We continue to conduct that kind of advocacy. Yes, we have not specifically called for the release of Mr. Lai, but I believe our position is quite well understood by his supporters.
Now, my question addressed to Mr. Lincross and Mr. Smith probably. During the handover in the late 90s from the British to China of Hong Kong, before the flow of money to China was used to go through Hong Kong. How do you see the flow of money now from outside to Hong Kong and from Hong Kong to China? Is there any obstacle from the Chinese government, any restrictions?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Very unfortunately, I do not have any information about flows of money or investments between Canada and China.
20 seconds.
20 seconds. I was going to ask Mr. McNamee about, he said, il y a de mesures spéciales.
He said there were special measures, tangible measures for those wishing to remain in Canada with immigration pathways. Could he give a general overview of the tangible measures put in place?
Politique publique.
We have two public policies that allow Hong Kongers to remain in Canada, either as students or as workers. They will be able to remain as permanent residents under these pathways. There's the special Hong Kong process. These are that's a 3-year public policy that will last until 2025. This will allow for roughly 20,000 PR applications divided into 2 streams, Stream A and Stream B. That will include roughly 20,000 applications. We have already received 8,000 applications.
Very much. Now we will go to Mr. Reddycop. Mr. Reddycop, you have 5 minutes. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, I just want to put on record that I'm very disappointed in the answers that we've gotten here today. I mean, we have IRCC deferring to Transport Canada for what's on a PR card. I'm kind of shocked at that. We have GAC not understanding there's a treaty between Canada and Hong Kong. We have Finance not understanding there's treaties to deal with pensions between the two countries. So I'm somewhat dumbfounded, I guess, at the lack of information, the lack of answers that we're getting today from people that I thought would have the answers. So I just wanted to get that on record. In light of that, I very quickly, I hope this can be done very quickly. I want to move a quick motion. We need to get the minister here to do sub-As before the end of June, and so I'd like to move the following motion: that pursuant to Standing Order 108.2, the committee invite the Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship to appear for 1 hour with officials, and invite departmental officials, along with officials from the Immigration and Refugee Board, to appear for 1 additional hour on the supplementary estimates A, as well as the subject matter of main estimates for the fiscal year 2024-25 before June 21st, 2024.
Thank you. The motion is in order. And Mr. El-Khoury, you are the first on the speaking list. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks to my colleague, Brad Reddycop, for moving this motion. But as a member in the Immigration Committee, I could confirm to you that the agenda of the minister is extremely congested, and we have maximum 2 more weeks. I believe it's going to be some impossible for him to, if you would like to modify your motion and postpone it to September and after, it's up to you. But this is what I'm saying you, I am convinced about it.
Ready, Cobb.
I would just say that I respect what you say. I don't know that you speak for the minister, though. So, and I mean, if he has a choice to make to come to this, so I think we just put this on the table, and whatever happens, happens.
Thank you. I have the speaking list, Mr. Ali. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I have the same. I agree with Mr. Al-Khoury that the time is too close. I think it's if we can give a bit extra time, I think that would be reasonable ask, and we wouldn't have any issue on that. So I think it's if we can bring up reasonable time for the minister, I think it would be if it's manageable for him and for as a committee for us as well. So that's what I just wanted to add that.
Mr. Bruno Desapp, then Mr. Chang.
Oui, Monsieur le Président, en fait, c'est pas à nous.
Chair, it's not our job to decide whether the timeline is reasonable or not. The minister is the one who will say whether he can come or not. So, once we agree on the wording of the motion, we can provide it to the minister, and then he'll either come to the committee or not. Everyone seems to agree that we want to invite the minister. So let's move forward. We'll put the request to the minister, and then he'll make a decision. I'd rather spend more time with our witnesses than discussing this. So, on that note, I will call for a vote on this motion so that we can move forward with this interesting discussion with our witnesses.
I have the speaking list. I have Mr. Chang, then Madam Kwan, then Mr. Ali, and then Mr. Al-Khoury. So once the list exhausted, then I will call the vote. Now I will go to Mr. Chang and then Madam Kwan. Mr. Chang, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm thinking about the timeline we have, and with only 2 weeks left to this session, I was thinking if we could replace the date as soon as possible for the minister to appear based on his schedule, because he has a quite extensive schedule with commitments across the country, not just in the House of Commons. So if we could maybe replace with as soon as possible, it may be helpful for the minister to be here.
You agree with that? No?
No, because the sub-aides are going to get reported automatically, so we need to do this before that.
Madam Kwan, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I think committee members are correct to say it's not up to us to determine about the minister's availability. All that we can do, of course, is ask. The minister will say, no, I'm sorry, I can't come, but here's an alternate date. And so really, I think we should really just make the ask and see what the minister comes back with. This is normal practice. You know, we try to get the subs done as soon as we can, and we had already had to delay that timeline because of other urgent studies, such as the Gaza and Sudan situation. So when the minister showed up last time, you know, we talked about that. So so I think it's fair to make this request of the minister, and then they'll come back to us and tell us about his availability.
Is a date attached to the motion, so I would ask the clerk to read this motion just to make sure that the members are very clear. But Mr. Reddycop is asking for. Mr. Clerk.
That pursuant to Standing Order 1082, the committee invite the Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship to appear for 1 hour with officials and invite departmental officials along with officials from Immigration and Refugee Board to appear for 1 additional hour on the Supplementary Estimates A, as well as the subject matter of main estimates for the fiscal year 2024-25 before June 21st, 2024.
Thank you. I have Mr. Ali on the Mr. Al Khoury, then Madam Girovich. Go ahead, Mr. Ali.
Thank you, Chair. I agree with everything, but I just wanted to add that give a option to Minister if it's not possible for him until June 21st, so he can give an alternate date when he would be appearing before the committee, as Ms. Kwan has suggested. So I think if we can add that into it, that would be give him an leverage that he's aligned with our.
I can only
thank you.
If there is an amendment to the motion, you got to say that motion is amended only way. Otherwise, I will call this as a discussion. I cannot propose myself, and if someone, one of the honourable members, have to amend, just like Mr. Chang earlier made a request to Mr. Reddycop, the amended motion should be on the floor. Only then I can go to the amendment. So with further ado, sorry, Mr. Ali, you have still the floor, and I'm going to go to Mr. Al Khoury afterwards.
I was just going to ask, can we suspend for 1 minute so we can talk? If it's a friendly amendment, we could work together on this?
Friendly. He said
yeah. For a few minutes. Here we go. We are back to business, and the floor, I have the speaking list. Mr. Ali, you have the floor, and then Madam Jurovich, Mr. Al Khoury, and then Mr. Kamich. I have 4 on the speaking list. No? Mr. Kamich has, Julie's off. Oh, Mr. Al Khoury is off. So the person that I have is Mr. Ali. Mr. Ali, go ahead. Floor is with you.
Thank you, Chair. As I suggested that I move the friendly amendment at the end of the motion, add or an alternative date that the minister is available.
Okay. Are we, Mr. Reddycop, you accept the friendly amendment?
Yes, but with one condition that I'm done my time, that we finish the Liberal, the Bloc, and the NDP round as planned.
Sure.
Okay. Yes.
Okay. So all in favor of the amendment?
Say aye.
Okay, great. Everyone is in favor. All those in favor as the motion as amended? All good. No one opposing. The motion is carried, and we are going to Mr. Reddycop and Mr. Ali. So look at this, how generous both conservatives and liberal friends are for Mr. Brunel Decept. Mr. Brunel Decept, we are skipping the conservatives and the liberals, and we are going to give you and Madam Kwan the last round before we adjourn the meeting. So, Mr. Brunel Decept, 2.5 minutes. Quick.
Merci, Monsieur.
Thank you, Chair. Wow, Christmas came early this year. Ms. Chen, you have said that Canada has called for the national security law to be repealed. You've also noted that Canada is calling for the release of all people who are imprisoned under the national security law. Given that Jimmy Law is one of those political prisoners, should I not understand that if Canada is calling for the release of all prisoners, it is also calling for the release of Jimmy Lai?
Yes, I would. Yes, Mr. Chair, that I would agree with that statement.
Je suis heureux de.
Well, I'm happy to hear it. Thank you very much, Ms. Chen. I will now yield the floor to whoever wishes to take it.
because I took the time without the consent from Mr. Chang. Mr. Chang, if I can give 2.5 minutes to Madam Kwan, then I can come back to you. I know I'm going out of order, but hopefully you will entertain my request as chair. Okay, thank you. Madam Kwan, you have 2.5 minutes before I go to Mr. Chang, because I just went off the track. Madam Kwan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I just want to be sure, and the question is to GAC. Of course, yesterday was the 35th anniversary of the Tiananmen massacre, and 30 years ago, the national security law and the protests came about, and many people will say what's happening right now is in Hong Kong is basically Tiananmen Massacre 2.0. Just this past week, we had a situation where what's called the Hong Kong 47 are under arrest and charged with in violation of the national security law and also Article 23. So my question to GAC is this: what is the minister doing in relation to that? And is she actually calling for the release of these political prisoners and for the Hong Kong authorities to stop prosecuting these individuals?
Madam Chen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The last few days have seen some very important developments on the China human rights scene. As you may have, some of you may have noted, Global Affairs Canada released a statement on May 30th regarding the outcomes of the trial of what we call the Hong Kong 47. Again, expressing our grave concerns around the application of national security law for what we believe are legitimate expressions of political views in Hong Kong. Yesterday, we also, Global Affairs Canada also released a statement on the occasion of the 35th anniversary of Tiananmen Square. We think it's very important that Canadians and the world does not forget what happened 35 years ago in Beijing. So I would say our minister is very focused on the relationship with China at this moment, including human rights.
Sorry, I was asking a very specific question. Is the minister calling for the release of these political prisoners and for the Hong Kong authority, Chinese government, to stop prosecuting political prisoners? It's kind of a yes or no question.
And if you can be brief in your answer.
As mentioned in the Universal Periodic Review statement by Canada in January, we did call for Hong Kong to discontinue all cases against individuals charged for exercising their human rights and freedoms.
Thank you. And Mr. Chang, sorry, I just saw the hand from Mr. Ali. Mr. Ali thought, I thought Mr. Ali gave me a go-ahead to go to the other parties, so my apologies. And Mr. Chang, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I want to thank all the witnesses for being here today. In July of 2023, I had the honor of making an announcement on behalf of IRCC on the removal of the education requirement under the Canadian Work Experience Stream A and Stream B of the Hong Kong Permanent Residency Pathway. This change meant that we could welcome more Hong Kongers to Canada who need our support, while simultaneously helping Canadian businesses fill labor gaps with workers who already have work experience here. Can you explain to the committee how the government has been using a flexible approach to adapt its program to support the needs of Hong Kongers here in Canada?
Mr. McNamee.
Yes, thank you. So that was one example of when we looked at a public policy and amended it to make it more effective in the circumstances of the day. Another example is the May 27th amendments and new public policies that allow persons who have work permits to extend those and persons who are in the process of getting permanent residence to have an access to a longer stay in Canada of up to 3 years. So it is in response to the realities of our day-to-day that we need to adapt our policies, and we're very willing to do that, and we'll continue to do so if necessary in the context of Hong Kong.
Question? Good? Okay, the member is good, and the watch says 7 o'clock right on. And on behalf of the committee members, I want to thank all the officials for being with us. Thank you for being with us, and very best to you. And I also want to thank everyone, and support staff, the interpreters, and of course the clerk and the analysts for staying till 7 o'clock. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you.